Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Wine Whine, Real Estate Uncorked. I'm Nicolette.
And I'm Quincy, and today we're going to dive into strategies that will help buyers and sellers in this changing marketplace.
So let's kick off the beginning of this with a quick look at Santa Clara County.
Awesome.
As of June 2nd, there were just over 2,100 homes on the market. 1,307 of those are single family, and about 800 are condos and townhomes.
So that inventory, while it's higher than we've been used to, it is lower than it was 2 weeks ago by about 1%.
Right.
That may be seasonal because of the summer, who knows, but it is a little bit lower in the amount of homes for sale versus those in contract being sold. It gives us about a 2-month supply. So it's like a balanced market right now, neither sellers nor a buyer's market. So
right, because it's interesting, and the data in the news is always number one, it's negative.
Of course.
Number two, it's behind.
Yes.
So a balanced market where you're seeing, if we continue on this trend, we're going to be in a world of hurt and all these bad news bears that are coming after the real estate market. So what would you say to buyers and sellers right now?
So
what does a balanced market mean?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I'm going to agree with the news piece, because it really just kind of drives me nuts, because I'll read in the same news feed how bad the market is and then how we have record high sales in the Bay Area. It's just like, it's crazy almost. But what a balanced market simply means is that there's really no super advantage to either the buyer or the seller. In the case of where I mean that is like sellers don't have the advantage of limited inventory, so they have more people searching for their home than there are sales.
Right.
And buyers now have more options, where there are more opportunities to be in a competitive marketplace with other buyers. So you don't have to rush in and have to put in, get into a multiple offer situation tonight by midnight, or else you're going to lose this property.
Right.
You've got time to actually do your due diligence. You've got time to really understand what's going on in the marketplace as a buyer and make the right offer that's going to win.
Right. Do you think that with graduation season and the time right now, that could be the reason why inventory has dropped?
That's a good point. And congratulations all to the
Congratulations to all the graduates of promotions of all the local schools, people going to high school, going into college, people graduating college. Yeah. It's exciting, and we're very proud of all of you.
Time. It could be related to graduations, but it also could be related to when people decide to sell their home and move. A lot of it's school-based. That's why May is always the biggest sales month of the year. And we don't really have a season here where it's higher or lower than most. It does pick up in May. However, the months are about the same. So maybe it has to do with schools. Maybe it has to do with vacations and everything else, people doing more things in the summertime and not getting their homes on the market. But we saw a steady rise in inventory from March, April to May, and then it just kind of cooled off a little bit in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So,
and I think we are huge proponents of saying that the right time is when you're ready.
Absolutely.
So, there's opportunity for both buyers and sellers right now in this particular market, but in any market, it's when it's right for you.
That's right. I mean, it's when you're ready to sell, it's the best time to sell your house.
Right.
And trying to time the market, it's like, trying to time the stock market. You don't know when the high is or when the low is. And it's just a matter of if the situation is right for you and the market favors what you want to do, then you move.
Yeah. I think there is one thing, though, that even though it's a balanced market, there is a critical need within this market of who you hire matters tremendously in how your opportunity exists.
And that goes for both buyers and sellers.
Right.
So, from the buy side, hiring the right person to help you or team to help you is critical, in the sense of having to be able to work with the other agents and work with the other side of the transaction, and relationships mean everything in this business.
Right.
So who we have or someone else might have that they're in relationship with over the years really comes to play. And we just closed one that had a lot to do with our relationship with the listing agent.
100%. We were able to explain what would be, to some realtors, a very complex situation having VA financing.
Right.
For number one, people aren't as educated, because not as many of those have been able to come through in the past couple years. There are certain details of things that need to happen in order for those to be successful. So the listing agents really have to be educated on them to educate the sellers on how easy it can be or not.
Yeah, and going back to relationship, working with agents who know our reputation,
right?
Our ability to close transactions and our ability to say this is what's going to happen and make it happen, means a lot. And so, it's
trust,
and experience, right? And experience,
trust,
and that VA financing for our client, it's a perfect example. It's not a bad thing. VA financing is great,
correct?
But in a competitive market, people go, "Oh, I'm afraid of that," so they run away because there's big cash offers and everything else. Take precedence.
It actually ended up being one of the more easy transactions because we knew how to work with it. We had the relationship with the listing side and created that space of trust that we were going to get it done, and we were able to close in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and big kudos to our lender.
Yeah, our lender was phenomenal in that process.
Exactly,
absolutely.
Really helps to have great relationships all the way around, and the trust of our lender. Our lender was phenomenal. So
yeah, I think I just wanted to make a point about that because there tends to be a guilt factor in my best friend has the realtor, is a realtor. Yeah. Everyone knows a realtor.
Yeah.
But, I used to joke around and saying you could turn in your coupons on the back of a cereal box and get your real estate license, which is pretty much true.
Pretty much.
And, it does get uncomfortable when everyone or you have several friends as a realtor. But it comes down to making sure you're working and hiring the right person for the job.
Absolutely.
So.
The old joke used to be when you got stopped by a police officer, they wouldn't ask you for your driver's license. They ask you for your real estate license because not everybody has a driver's license.
It's true. It's very true.
That's in this market will correct some of that as well. But being again having the expertise and the confidence and the trust and the experience to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward for both buyers and sellers. And even on the sell side, when you look on the sell side, proper preparation prepares yourself for a successful close and a quick close.
Right. So this is not a market, like you say, that you're going to put a sign in the ground and it's going to be sold the next day.
That's right.
Days on market are longer. Proper preparation is necessary in order for it to hit the numbers that they want.
Yeah, that and managing our clients' expectations too.
Exactly.
Because our clients, are while they're knowledgeable, they need to know exactly what's going on in the marketplace. Whereas before, it was a little easier. You could just simply say, yeah, it's going to sell probably pretty quickly.
Right.
But now you have to be prepared with evidence, with market statistics, with market information that shows and educates your sellers and even your buyers as to what's the reality of the marketplace.
And I can tell you with working with a lot of buyers that buyers are not only looking at sold data, they're looking at price reductions more so than sold data.
Absolutely.
So they're looking at a deal on everything now or trying to. So it's really important to make sure that you're positioned out the gate correctly as a seller and not chasing the number.
Yeah. And if the market is slowing slightly and the prices are slightly dropping, you have to be positioned properly. It's the old, you can't catch a falling knife.
Right.
And not that our knives are falling. I don't want to create panic in the marketplace. But when you go in with realistic expectations about what the market has been doing and what you anticipate it to do, everyone's on the same page.
And we've seen time and time again in this market, when it's priced appropriately and the property is positioned and marketed the way that it should be, it's getting multiple offers and still getting top dollar or getting, all it takes is one good offer, we always say.
Yeah, we need one.
Yeah, one good one.
And we've been fortunate. All of our listings this year have sold for more than we've asked, and we've had multiple offers on every one of them. Now, it isn't 5 offers or 10 offers or, God forbid, 20 offers like it was before, but it is getting down to the best offer, and sometimes it's 3 or 4, and sometimes it's 2. Who knows?
Right. So I just wanted to jump backwards a little bit because this whole podcast is really highlighting this current market, what opportunities are out there. And I want to talk a little bit about the creative financing. I know we talked a little bit about the VA stuff.
Yeah.
And again, there's so much involved with VA. There's assumable loans that VA can get involved in too, which, could look, there's a listing right now in Gilroy that I know of. They're specifically marketing it at a 3.5 interest rate. It's a townhouse built specifically for VA guidelines.
Wow.
So that's a huge opportunity for someone to get into something. And I'll tell you, my friend who I just represented, that's a veteran, he is only paying $400 more a month. And his roommate is paying $400 additional to own their own home.
Than he was renting?
Yes.
That's amazing.
So $800 more than he was renting a property in San Jose at an apartment. Yeah. And he was not renting some amazing house. He was renting an apartment in downtown San Jose and now has the ability to own their own home.
That's wonderful.
It's nice. It's beautiful. It's in a great community. It's walking distance to all these fun things. So, I mean, it's really that example. But let's talk about some of the other creative financing things.
Just one quick thing, and helping a veteran who serves his country.
Is there anything better?
I mean, to get home ownership and have all the advantages of being a homeowner, it's the best thing going.
And he's so appreciative and grateful, and I'm forever grateful for him too.
Absolutely. So there's all kinds of different financing that has always been around, with the exception of this newer one for investors and for anybody really. It's called debt service coverage ratio, which is an investor product where you can go buy an investment property, and the investment property's financing is based on the rent. So if, let's just pretend the rent's $3,000 a month, they'll loan you the amount of money that $3,000 a month covers. You have to come up with the balance, so the 20 or 25% down. But if the rent covers the mortgage payment, you could get a loan. I mean, it's an interesting product, especially if you're looking at out of the area markets. You want to go look at properties in other parts of this country where the property values are between $200,000 and $600,000, for example. You get a debt service coverage loan on something like that. It could be a good opportunity for you.
So what a fantastic opportunity for people who have wanted to dip their toe into the investment side of real estate.
That's right.
I mean, that's a huge opportunity right there. And
it really is.
We know that the best way to build wealth is through real estate.
Always has been and always will be.
Right. So if you have any questions around those types of opportunity, I know there's a huge tick up in equity lines being drawn out right now because people are freaking out that their value of their home is going to go out, and they want to make sure that they have an equity line in place at the current value. But you can use that equity line to put that money down.
Payment.
Exactly. So,
and the debt service coverage is on the first mortgage. You know? So if you're borrowing money from your existing property, it doesn't come into the qualification for the debt service coverage. Right. So, and then, of course, there's VA loan, which we just talked about, 100% financing for vets. I mean, that's tremendous, I think. And then FHA loans are out there still and always will be. Right. There are some down payment assistance programs that are out in the area, and we have a search engine that helps us look for all the possible through the California Association of Realtors. They have a site that we can go through that gives us all the programs that are available. And keep in mind, while they're out there, a lot of times they're not easy to get. So you have to be careful about promising.
I want to go backwards just a second, because the FHA loans are minimal down payments.
Correct. Right.
So just to share a quick story, Brian and I actually got into our first house together in Blossom Valley using an FHA loan. Right. I think we had to put 3.5% down. Right. And that's how we were able to move through our real estate journey, because we didn't have a huge down payment in order to get into a property. Right. So if you're waiting, I had a call with a new buyer the other day, and they said, well, we have to have 20% down. No, that's not true. No. You don't always have to have 20% down. So if that's what's stopping you from starting the process of looking into home ownership, get more information.
Well, it starts with a conversation. Right. That's all it is. It's just a conversation. Right. And who knows what the possibilities are. Possibilities are limitless. So it's a good way to start. Down payment assistance programs, I kind of touched on. They take a little longer time, so you have to have a little more. Now is a good opportunity to have longer escrows, because people are anxious to get their homes sold. Right. And so you can have a few more expanded terms, which is great. Lenders have 2-for-1 buy down programs where you buy the rate down for a couple of years to help yourself with a lower payment for the first 2 years. Granted, that costs you money, but maybe that money could come from a seller credit too. You don't know. I mean, now things are negotiable now. Right. The cross-collateralization loans, where if we're looking at trying to buy another house to move into, you could cross-collateralize to the existing home and or other properties.
So that allows you not to sell your house first. You can wait until you've secured your next property.
Right.
Right.
And you could buy first before you sell, which
Right.
is an advantage. Debt to income loans, ratios, some lenders have a little bit higher debt to income ratios. What else do we have? I guess I don't know what else I could talk about in that area.
No, I think you've
There's
touched
so many options, but it goes back to what we're talking about: getting prepared, getting in touch with our lender. I mean, get in touch with our lender. You're going to find out every possible thing you possibly can.
Yeah.
And getting yourself a plan and executing it.
Yeah. So I think, the key to this podcast was really just to identify in this particular market, there's so much opportunity on both sides. Mm-hmm. So whether or not you're a buyer, you're a seller, you're thinking about becoming a buyer, you're thinking about becoming a seller, opportunity exists and there's proper preparation that can take place.
Yeah.
And we're available to help with that.
Yeah. And we didn't touch a whole lot on the selling side. We talked a lot about the buying side, and the selling side is equally important to be prepared. Going through the steps with the sellers, going through the steps of what it takes to get your property prepared, making sure that you're putting the property in its best possible light. There's a story to every home.
Right.
And being able to tell that story, to share that story, to make the home even more desirable, making sure the property is in great condition, doing the preparation to do that, proper staging, proper photography, proper social media posts to make the home even more desirable. I mean, our process, we have 152 steps.
Yes, we do.
With over 60 touch points with everyone involved to make sure that these things are done. And that's before you get on the market.
Right.
That doesn't take into effect what happens once it gets on the market. But it's so important to really look into who you're hiring and what they do to make sure that the homes are properly prepared.
Once again, you can't put a post in the ground and expect it to sell.
No, it's not that way at all.
Right.
And even more so now, going one step further, the communication with your sellers and your buyers, but with your sellers, keeping them in touch with what's going on with the people who are showing the property. The communication should be doubled right now for every agent.
Right.
If you're not doubling your communication with your clients, you're missing out on the next referral.
Yeah.
Because people have to be informed, and they're worried. They're worried. So.
Yeah. Well, with all the news and things that are happening around, I mean, why wouldn't you be, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, really important to make sure your clients are informed, prepared and informed. And then again, going back to pricing, proper pricing.
Right.
You're going to get the eyeballs on the property with proper pricing. So.
Right.
And to be able to, and here's the other thing for agents out there, to be able to stand up in front of your clients with the facts, with the information, and be strong about saying, this is what the market is.
Right.
And remember, realtors out there, we don't set the market.
Right.
We just interpret it. So.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a huge thing and takeaway for not just the consumer, but also realtors as well.
Yeah.
Because that really helps the consumer confidence when we're all on the same page.
That's right. Very good.
Awesome. Well, we just wanted to bring some clarity into the existing market and make sure that we are providing opportunity for everyone who's interested in their real estate journey. So if you had any questions from anything we talked about today, or you feel that someone could use this information, we would love if you would share or comment any of your questions or send us a direct message. And thank you so much for joining us on another Wine and Whine Real Estate Uncorked. We look forward to seeing you again.
Bye-bye.